मैम सुनीता मैम स्टार्ट करा.
सर याचना मी करू.
हाँ
Bhante, first we will ask for forgiveness. Ukasavandami Bhante Dvaratayena Mayankatang Sapangachayang Kamatame Bhante Dutiyampi Ukasavandami Bhante Dvaratayena Mayankatang Sapangachayang Kamatame Bhante Tatiyampi Ukasavandami Bhante Dvaratayena Mayankatang Sapangachayang Kamatame Bhante Ukasahang Bhante Tisaranena Saha Ajiva Attamakaseelang Dhammang Yachami Anugahang Katva Seelang Dethame Bhante Dutiyampi Ukasahang Bhante Tisaranena Saha Ajiva Attamakaseelang Dhammang Yachami Anugahang Katva Seelang Dethame Bhante Tatiyampi Ukasahang Bhante Tisaranena Saha Ajiva Attamakaseelang Dhammang Yacha Gahang Katva Seelang Dethame Bhante.
You're asking for 5 precepts, is correct?
Ajiva Attamakaseela Bhante.
I'm not familiar with this formula, which is the 5 precepts or 8 precepts?
Bhante, it's 8 precept
8 precepts, okay.
with the Pisuno Vacha, Parusa Vacha, Sampalapa Vacha.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this. I'll just so not the Uposatha precept, but the 5 precept, but expanding the Vacha, Sama Vacha. Is that correct?
Yes, Bhante, yes.
Okay, so this is first time I've ever done this.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tisarana kamanang nititang.
Bhante.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapathang samadhiyami.
पाणातिपाता वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Atinatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
अदिन्नादाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Kamesu vichajara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
कामेषु मिच्छाचारा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Musavadha veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
मुसावादा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
You have to help me here. I can't remember which is the next one? Parusavacha?
Yes, Bhante.
Parusavacha veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
रुसावाचा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Pisunavacha.
Visunavacha veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
पिसुनावाचा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Sampappalapa veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
संभप्पलापा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Surameraya majapamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
सुरामेरयमज्जपमादठाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि
Imani yatta sikkhapadhani silena sukating yanti silena bhogasampadha silena nipputing yanti tasma silang visotaye.
ओम भंते साधु 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 थैंक यू भंते
Bhante, your video.
I'd be interested to know which tradition takes precepts in this way. It's unfamiliar to me.
Bhante, this is a Sri Lankan.
Sri Lankan style. Okay, good.
Bhante, your video is not seen on the screen.
Yeah, I don't
Sarvana
know.
video दिसत
There's something.
Now
Okay.
can Bhante. Yes.
Yeah, I have some technical problem and chanting problem, everything.
Okay. Okay, Bhante.
Okay. So, what are we doing today? What's our program?
Bhante, this is our 42nd session. Means continue 42 months we are practicing.
Well,
And today we wish that we could hear some Dhamma talk from you.
you have anything in particular you would like to hear about?
Anything is okay, Bhante, with your your words. No issue. Anything you can say.
I see. Okay. Well, the defining feature of Buddha Dhamma, and certainly when we compare it with the theistic religions, is its emphasis on training and education. In most religions, as you know, there is a belief in God or gods or powerful forces, and human beings must find a way to propitiate or to make themselves safe from those forces they cannot see or understand. And so that tends to lead to obedience to the teachings in a book, and to prayers, and to ceremonies. And most people think that's basically what religion is about. But the Buddha was revolutionary. I mean, and this not only compared to the religions that preceded Buddha Dhamma, but those that succeeded it. And where the Buddha proclaimed that the cause of human suffering is not to be found outside of ourselves, but is to be found within, and that not understanding the true nature of our life and the world we live in, then we become a prey to tanha, to various kinds of cravings, and so suffer unnecessarily. So rather than seeking security by trying to offer prayers and performing ceremonies and sacrifices, or something, some power, some force outside ourselves, we look within. And so in the faith-based religions, the more faith you have, the better. And in those religions, the enemy is doubt. Whereas in Buddha Dhamma, we consider faith as an excuse me, as a power, as an indriya, something to be made use of, a tool, in other words, in this education process. So we're moving from ignorance to understanding, from darkness to light, and we have to train every aspect of our being, our actions, our speech, our emotions, our thinking. Everything has to be included. There's nothing outside of this training, this education, this eightfold path. So meditation practices, we can say, form the heart of this training. But if meditation techniques are taken out of the context of the Eightfold Path, they will have no truly transformative effect. We can become like athletes or incredibly powerful samadhi, but that does not necessarily result in liberation. So samadhi has to be embedded in the Eightfold Path, beginning with right view. The particular value of formal meditation, sitting and walking, so on, is that we are able to create the conditions, or we try to create the conditions which are most conducive to growth in Dhamma. That is to say, when we sit, we walk, we try to find a place which is not too noisy, as quiet as possible, which the air is good, and which we are free from normal distractions. So this is the simple logic of formal meditation, just as a doctor could theoretically perform an operation in the corridor of a hospital, but would obviously prefer to do so in the operating theatre. And we need to practice the Dhamma throughout the day, throughout our lives, and we can do that. But when we devote a certain period of the day to formal practice, then we're making it our number one priority, and we are practicing the Dhamma in an environment, in a situation in which we have set everything up in the most beneficial way, which of course we are not able to do in daily life usually. Now there are many different meditation techniques and many different theories about meditation. And the profusion of techniques and methods can cause some doubt and some confusion. I would say here simply that anyone who teaches only my method is correct, every other method is wrong or incomplete or misguided or whatever, then that's grounds for some care. And this kind of attitude is one which is criticized by the Buddha on many occasions, and that attachment to views and opinions, and that can be expressed in attachment to meditation techniques, is more of an obstacle than many people realize. So we're in the abandonment of tanha and upadana, this attachment to ideas and concepts and paths of practice is something to beware of. So the emphasis on formal practice is, as I say, at the very heart of our life as Buddhists. Nevertheless, there are pitfalls and dangers to be aware of. For instance, one can become obsessed with one's samadhi to the extent that coming out of the meditation room or coming off of a retreat, then meditators can become very irritated, become irritable and resentful that the people around them are undermining their samadhi. The world is out to get them, because they have this idea of this samadhi as this kind of precious thing that they have to hold on to, and any kind of adverse situation or challenge is seen as a danger to the samadhi. So there are grounds for that attitude in the sutta, in the commentaries for those leading a monastic life, but this is more in terms of avoiding unnecessarily confusing or busy situations. So it's intelligent to avoid situations and occasions where you are unnecessarily being subjected to conflicts and so on, or to distractions particularly. But what I'm talking about here is this attitude to the sense world, in which one sees it as an enemy, and in which meditators can find themselves being resentful to other family members, or blaming them when their samadhi is not what it was when they were on retreat. I would suggest that the importance of going on retreats and doing intensive meditation practices is that you are creating a store, a momentum of mindfulness and awareness that will allow you to navigate the challenges of everyday life and to learn from them. Because this is the essential character of the Buddhist practitioner, is a learner, is learning how to learn. In fact, being a learner is quite elevated attainment. It's, the Arya Pugalas are the learners. So if you're not reached that level yet, then you're learning how to learn. But what we want to be learning is the three characteristics, and we're learning that we can learn those all the time. So we want to be creating the mind which is strong enough and stable enough, but also flexible and adaptable and able to learn from situations, whatever they may be. So we in a challenging situation, when someone speaks to you inappropriately, disrespectfully, or harshly, or makes a false accusation against you, or is unfair to you. Now, this is where our Dhamma practice is put to the test. Rather than saying, I don't need this right now, this is really completely disrupting my samadhi, you say, what's going on here? Where is the suffering? And this, like, where is the suffering, and particularly where is the cause of the suffering? Where is the craving right here? This is very much part of the style of teaching in the forest monasteries in northeast Thailand, particularly in Ajahn Chah's monasteries where I trained. So Ajahn Chah would constantly be reminding us that for dukkha to arise, for suffering to arise, there has to be some craving in our minds, our hearts. It's a straightforward point, and one I would imagine you've heard many times, but it have to keep coming back to that again and again. That when there's some internal conflict, some pain, some difficulty, then there are two things combining. There is the trigger from the external world, from a situation, or from a particular person or people, and then there is the craving, which is combining with that. So in a situation in which someone is saying or doing something which is is inappropriate and so on, then we recognize that it's not their behavior which is the cause of our dukkha, but is the usually the vibhava tanha, not wanting them to do that, to act in that way, to speak in that way, to be that way. There we have the dukkha and samudaya. We're seeing the first two noble truths very, very clearly. And now that's not to fall into the extreme view that everything is within. And this is also a common trap for meditation. I see this in Buddhist cultures, Thailand particularly. This often occurs when people assume that the teaching is that you just let go of your craving and your defilement and make your mind at peace, and that's the end of it. Well, it's not. That's one part of it. So if you're in a situation where people are behaving badly and causing problems for those around them, the fact that you can be emotionally unaffected by it is not the end of the story. But when you are able to put down that resentment and anger or sadness and depression that someone is behaving like that, your mind is calm and bright and stable, then wisdom will arise. What's the next step? Is there a need to speak with that person one-on-one, or to have a meeting, or to give feedback, or to wait for a while? There are so many different options. And the important point here is that only when you've put down the craving and the defilement in the mind is the mind capable of devising the wisest next step. So we need that kind of strength of mind and patience, khanti, and sharpness of mind to recognize that suffering is arising. Where's the craving? Letting go of the craving, making the mind calm and stable, and then allowing the wisdom to arise, the options, what's the best thing to do. So this is how we're practicing in daily life. And as I say, the trap can be feeling, I don't need this right now. I don't want this. I've just been on retreat. My meditation's going so well. This is so disturbing. I feel terrible. So this is obviously just another expression of vipawa tanha. You don't have any rights to be treated well or to be understood. And you may think that you are that your mind has changed a lot. You're calmer and you're understand things a lot better and so on. But don't expect the people around you to recognize that, particularly and most painfully family members. If you are the only one in your family who's meditating, the people around you have very fixed ideas about who you are, and they're not going to be able to see changes in you very easily. In fact, they may resist the very idea that you're changing. It's threatening to them. And so many meditators will find that their teachers or people in meditation camps and courses will compliment them on how much they've changed, how bright and calm they are, etc. And yet at home with their family, nobody sees this at all. And there's this desire, this craving to be recognized for the way that you changed, or thinking that you should be, or that it must be, because it's obvious to you, it's obvious to everyone else. Have to be recognized that it's difficult for people to see changes in those closest to them. You have to be very patient with people and don't resent anybody because they're not giving you that kind of recognition. So this danger of attaining quite powerful states of samadhi on retreat, but being unable to sustain them in daily life, and not becoming resentful of people and situations on that account, and not falling into that trap of just wanting to get back on retreat again, counting the days until you can get back and get that samadhi back again. They say the Eightfold Path is about adapting to the situation and learning from the situation. So in some cases, then sila practice is coming to the fore. And with the practice of the heart, the adhijita sikar or samadhi in the dry sikar, and panya as playing a subsidiary supporting role. In other cases, in other areas in life, and particularly in formal meditation, then the samadhi, the training of the heart, is at the center and forefront of our efforts, and the sila and panya are playing supporting roles. In other times, other stages of meditation, then the wisdom training is coming to the fore, and the training in sila, training of the heart, is playing a backup role, a subsidiary role. So in practice, those three elements, those three kinds of training of sila, samadhi, panya, are always present to one degree or another, simply that one of the three will be playing the major role and the other two will be backing up and supporting that practice. But looking at everything as a challenge, and also a very important element of practice I'd like to share with you this morning is motivation, right motivation, and inspiration. So inspiration is a conditioned phenomena. It's a sankhara like anything else, which means to say that it's not stable. It goes up and it goes down, it waxes and it wanes. And part of your task as a meditator is to find ways to sustain that inspiration, or to bring it into the mind when it is lacking. At the beginning of a meditation session in particular, it's important to check how much interest and enthusiasm is there for the meditation practice. Sometimes we're full of inspiration, other times not so much. That's called normal and natural, but it's not something you just have to accept. So at the beginning of a meditation, if you're just sitting there while it's the usual time and it's become a little bit kind of mechanical or perfunctory, then just spend a little time reviewing, the value of Dhamma practice, the suffering, the endless suffering that will ensue from a lack of this training, the suffering we've experienced in the past, in this life, and in so many previous lives, because a lack of Dhamma. And then the other side, we reflect on can reflect on the great teachers that we've met or listened to, who we revere, and we remind ourselves that their attainments due to effort and practice of the Eightfold Path, and that we can follow in their footsteps if we apply ourselves consistently and correctly. So these are the two poles. I mean, it's basically like a pros and cons investigation, the cons of not meditating and the pros of meditating. And you should have like a little file or a list of reflections, but specific kind of reflections that will bring up energy. And everyone would be a little bit different, but that should be in your toolbox. Again, the distinction between this Dhammachanda and Tanha is that the Dhammachanda is focused on the process itself, on the effort itself, rather than the results. So if you're motivating yourself because you want to get this, attain that, realize this and that, then you're probably on the path of craving. And that will not work out so well for you. But the boundary between Dhammachanda and Tanha is a subtle one, and it's very common that the mind will move from one to the other. That is to say, you may start off with motivated by Dhammachanda, and then craving will sneak into the mind. And also conversely, you may start off perhaps with a more defiled kind of desire and the craving, but the Dhammachanda supplants it, the Dhammachanda takes its place. So these things are not sort of on different poles, they're actually quite subtle, that one can morph into the other, and it's something to be mindful of. So returning to meditation practice, just another thought reflection to share with you today is that the whatever technique we are practicing, there are certain stable elements, certain things that need to be fulfilled. For example, the three Dhammas, the three virtuous qualities of sati, sampajanya, and atapi. In the Pali verse, which we chant, atapi, sampajano, satima, those three virtues need to be present, whatever meditation technique, whether you call it samatha, you call it vipassana, or whatever you're doing. So these are common to all meditation, and they are, and you should observe whether or not they're present, because whatever kind of technique you're using, if any of those is absent, then you've lost the plot. You need to reestablish your attention. So simply mindfulness is the recollection, the non-forgetting of what you're doing. And sampajanya is an aspect of wisdom. It's like preliminary, basic kind of wisdom. These two go together. They're really inseparable. And so mindfulness, we can say, or sati, we can say, is not forgetting. And sampajanya is not being deluded about something, and not having a clear vision of what's what. For example, is what's our goal? Is what we're doing right now leading to a goal? Is it the most appropriate approach that we need right now? So if you're meditating and you lose sati and your mind get caught up in some memory or some imagination, then you realize, oh, I've lost it. I've been caught in a daydream. That recognition, I've been caught in a daydream, that's the sampajanya. And then use the atapi to reestablish attention. Atapi is usually translated in English as ardency. So this is idea of something quite powerful, and it's burns up defilements. But I would suggest that atapi is really that optimum level of effort that you need to abandon the five hindrances. So that might be quite sort of powerful, and it might be quite gentle. It depends on the needs of the mind at that moment. So we can look at the mind as like a child, like a baby, and just as a parent has to use different modes of sometimes quite strict, sometimes quite gentle in teaching their child. So we teach our mind in the right way. We need to be sensitive. What does the mind need right now? So the common elements in meditation, whatever technique, I'm saying these three qualities of sati, sampajanya, and atapi, which is a name for optimum amount of effort. And then we can also look in terms of the four right efforts in samma vayama. So we are establishing attention on our object in such a way that as yet unarisen unwholesome dhammas do not arise. If mindfulness does falter, we get the mind, a hindrance enters the mind, then we apply the second of the four right efforts in abandoning unwholesome dhammas that have already arisen. As we practice and the hindrances, the nivaranas weaken, and then where the jhana factors, the bojjhangas start to arise, but we're bringing into the mind those wholesome dhammas that are not there yet through this practice of meditation. and we could say also the sati sampajanya introduced into the mind at the beginning of the meditation would fulfill this this element. And then we're learning how to take care of these wholesome dhammas and to nurture them and bring them to maturity and to perfection. So again, different meditation techniques, but certain common elements. One, that there is right motivation, underpinning the practice. There is sati sampajanya atapi, and there are the 4 kinds of right effort. Again, not becoming so obsessed with every single meditation and the ups and downs, just being a little bit more relaxed, but learning from mistakes. Refer you again to the 4 iddhipadas, path to success, starting off with chanda, as I mentioned before, then right effort, and then citta, which is a name for samadhi, really a synonym for samadhi, and then vimamsa, which is a particular kind of wisdom, which is reviewing wisdom, when you're reviewing your practice and identifying weak spots and things that need to be remedied, and good points that need to be emphasized and expanded upon. Outside of the meditation, then we have the 5 precepts, or these 8 precepts as objects of mindfulness in daily life, things to bring us back to the present, to prevent the mind wandering away, and being constantly looking at the body, at the mind, observing, learning from inside, learning from outside, learning from the life we live, and seeing again and again this the impermanence, the uncertainty of phenomena, the fragility of phenomena, the inability of any impermanent phenomena to answer the deepest needs of the human heart, the selfless flowing nature of phenomena, how everything is arising, passing away to causes and conditions, without any owner, without any self standing behind this flow of experience and directing the traffic. So these are a few thoughts I would like to share with you this morning.
Sadhu, 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 Bante. Thank you, Bante. Can people ask some questions?
Yes, of course.
काही प्रश्न आहेत का कोणाला? तर विचारू शकता, मी ट्रान्सलेशन करेन. I think no have, but they please give some practical advice on Marananusati.
Marananusati.
Yeah, but
Marananusati or Maranasati is one of the key meditation techniques to learn. So we do the 4 principal kamatanas that you should have at least some fluency in, some experience of. Anapanasati, Asubha kamatan, Maranasati, and Metta Bhavana. Then we could, and with the, excuse me, I would also add Bhutanasati. So I would say 5 key practices. Of course, there are a lot more, but it's good to have some fluency in all of these. And Maranasati is an example of a meditation in which we don't abandon all thinking, all discursive thinking, but that we use thinking as a tool. And the the difference between the discursive and the non-discursive meditations is that non-discursive means, for example, with anapanasati, where we don't allow the mind to think, to reflect, to investigate. Anyway, we're simply establishing attention on the sensation of the breath. So the thinking is something to be abandoned immediately. It arises in the mind. We're not going to follow the thinking mind. But the Maranasati is an example of a meditation, and there are many meditations like this, where we learn how to think in a disciplined and focused way. And so I'm talking generally about these meditations before I go into the specifics of Maranasati here. The value, there are many values of this. Let's say you're leading a quite busy life where you have a lot of interaction with other people, and it's kind of a lot going on in your mind during the day. And then coming back to sit in samadhi in the evening, there can be a real sense of resistance. There's a momentum of thinking that if you just shut off with a non-discursive meditation like anapanasati, can be quite difficult and frustrating. So one of the skillful means is to begin a meditation session with one of these discursive practices where you're saying, okay, there's all this thinking energy, this thinking momentum in the mind. We're not going to sort of dam it up and just sort of resist it altogether, but we're going to take it and allow the mind to think within certain topics, within certain parameters. And this can be a much more skillful way to deal with a busy mind at the beginning of a meditation. And what will happen is, if you can keep the mind on the topic that you've chosen, then after some time the mind calms down in a very natural way, and they'll reach a point where you feel this is enough. And then you can, if you wish, switch to the non-discursive meditation, like the breath, and the mind is ready for it now. So as a preliminary to anapanasati, these discursive meditations are very skillful means to apply. They can also be considered meditations in themselves, of course. In this case, when the practice reaches a certain level of intensity, then there's the pamoja and piti arises in the mind, which is the foundation for samadhi and panya. In the case of Maranasati, then it's good to start out, if you've never done this before, just to sit down with a pencil and paper and to write out a few of the key reflections and make a list. And then when you say you make a list of 5, 6, 7, 8 points, and then when you start to meditate, then you go through them. You reflect on the first thought, and then when the mind you run out a bit, then you go on to the second one, and then you go on to the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one, and then you can come back to the fourth one, and the third one, and the second one, and the first one. So you go back and forth. You want to anuloma patiloma, or it may be that there is one reflection which is particularly powerful for you, and you can keep on just on that one reflection. So there's no kind of fixed way to do this. And I would say many meditation session practices also, there is a certain room for creativity, provided you are conforming to the main Dhamma principles involved. And with Maranasati, then the classic kinds of reflection are that everybody in the world has either died or is going to die. Everybody. And then from that, everybody dies. Everybody who's ever lived has died or will die. Then you can expand upon that. And for instance, thinking about rich people and poor people, men, women, that death can come at any time. So meaning that small children, babies, small children, adolescents, people in their 20s, their 30s, so you can go through that kind of path of going through all the different age groups and reminding yourself that people in this age group die all the time, that death is for everyone, inevitably, and there's no escape. It's definitely going to happen to everyone. And then going through different like subsets of the human or the living population, just to keep impressing upon the mind just how comprehensive this is. And then as I say, this other point, the uncertainty of the time. It can happen at any time. And maybe you have examples of people who've died unexpectedly, out of the blue. So there are different people who die with illnesses, who gradually, their condition gradually deteriorates until they finally pass away. Others who pass away very quickly, unexpectedly. There are people who seem to have got better and then have a relapse and pass away. So all the different ways that human beings can die. It's another. So we're all going to die. Nobody knows when they're going to die. The death has no favorites, even if you're rich and wealthy and you're going to die, everyone's going to die. And just keep bringing the mind back to that. Death is inevitable, but when you're going to die is uncertain, and how you're going to die is uncertain. And so when you begin, you can look at this more generally, going through it, as I say, in terms of men, women, young, old, etc., etc. But then the important next step is to bring it into me. I'm going to die. I'm definitely going to die. I don't know when I'm going to die. I don't know how I'm going to die, but I'm going to die, and I'm going to be separated from everyone that I love. So the reflections that you have are are varied, and you can be creative and come up with things that really mean something to you. The only really fixed factor is moving from a more general appreciation of death to death as something that's definitely going to happen to you. And then the thinking, if it's been disciplined and if it's been continuous without interruptions, then you'll find a point where the mind just lets go of the thinking and will enter into samadhi. This meditation obviously is a sensitive one, in that if you are not careful, if you lack the right approach and the right way of thinking about death, it can make you very depressed or downhearted, and in that case, then you should stop and realize that you're not practicing maranasati in the way that the Lord Buddha recommended, because this will bring, if it's practiced correctly, then it brings peace to the mind and clarity, stillness, and wholesome dhammas. But if whatever activity we are involved in, and this includes meditation practice, if unwholesome dhammas are increasing and wholesome dhammas are decreasing, then you know you've taken a wrong step and you need to step back and reestablish and review where are you going wrong here. So if there's this sense of me very strong, me, I'm going to die, then it can bring up a lot of fear and aversion and depression. So this is not about me, the owner of my life, this inner self, inner me who's going to die. We're looking at it as a natural phenomena, something that will occur, and which the five khandhas, which we, just for ease of communication, we can refer to as me or I, just as a conventional designation, is going to pass away from this life. So this body, four elements, we leave here, we cremate it or bury it or whatever, and the flow of karma, of good and bad karma, will continue and reassert itself in a new identity. So it's this identity, this conventional person living here and now, who passes away, but the stream of phenomena, which we, as I say, for ease of communication, we give a name to in this world, is what will pass away.
There one more question in chat box. Should I take?
Yes.
They're asking that why sometimes we don't want to practice meditation.
Well, is there anything in the world that you want to do all the time? I don't think so. But this is part of Dhamma practice. You see, if you think there's this thing called meditation, and then, it's a part of your life and you have different feelings towards it, then you're going to get caught in this trap, as they say. But when you're looking at Dhamma practice, the Eightfold Path, as incorporating the meditation practices, then the practice doesn't begin and end with sitting cross-legged, but it includes how you feel about it. And so you're learning how your feelings about meditation change. They're impermanent, they're dukkha, they're anatta. They're not things that you should identify with and believe in. So if you're pushing too much, you have a very aggressive kind of ambitious kind of attitude to meditation, this will have detrimental effects. If you are lacking that kind of joy and enjoyment in meditation, and it becomes to seem just like a chore or something I have to do, and you believe in that, then you're going to have resistance. If you have this idea, I need certain results from practice to make it worth my while, and if those results are not appearing, then you lose your inspiration. Then that's something to attend to. Also, how gaining ideas and wanting to get something from meditation will have detrimental effects when you don't get what you want. So during the reflections I gave earlier on, I spoke about the importance of developing this ability to produce chanda, Dhamma chanda, which will take you beyond this kind of resistance. It's important to be consistent and just to keep going and be patient and not have a kind of a timetable and not have expectations and not compare yourself with other people. In some cases where there is real resistance, then I would recommend that you look on the meditation practice as an offering to your teachers or an offering to your parents. And so rather than this is something you're doing for yourself and your spiritual development and so on, and can easily become this kind of obsessive personal project. You say, I'm going to meditate today. For instance, I'm going to meditate on the breath, and every moment of mindfulness, I'm going to offer that to my teacher out of gratitude, or offer to the Buddha. Do 5 minutes and offer anapanasati, offer to the Buddha, 5 minutes offer to the Dhamma, 5 minutes offer to the Sangha, 5 minutes offer to my teacher, 5 minutes offer to my mom or my dad. So when you can choose how you want to do this again, but the idea is you're switching this idea of this is something I'm doing for me, which will often run into these problems of lack of motivation, and bypassing this or dealing with it skillfully by every now and again looking at practice as an offering and something you're doing for others. So you tap into all that good and kind energy which is already there within you.
Mm. One more question, 2 questions, Bhante. How can we reduce our bad habits through the practice?
Well, bad habits of we have physical bad habits and verbal bad habits and mental bad habits, and so the Eightfold Path is directly focused on preventing the arising of unwholesome mental states and learning how to effectively deal with them and let them go. So, I mean, their habits are habits. That's to say, they are an accumulation of intention and like a particular kind of intention, which has been repeated again and again and again until it's formed like a rut in your mind. And so there's no quick fix for habits, but by practicing the Eightfold Path, you're creating a new pathway for the mind. So let's say in the case of someone who tends to lose their temper with people easily, so that's a habit. But it's not who you are. It's not like your destiny. You have to be like that forever. But you apply yourself, and most basically, you begin with the firm intention not to express that sudden anger, either physically or verbally. So that's the sila side. Then you're regularly developing the qualities of mindfulness and patience and metta, loving kindness, which directly counter that angry impulse. And then you're looking with wisdom at the causes and conditions behind that anger. For instance, do you lose your temper with everyone, or there's some people in particular? Is it particular topics, particular sensitive subjects, or where is the craving? As I mean, is it because you think it should be like this, they shouldn't do that, and then you have these expectations, and those expectations are not met. So dealing with habits, it's you have to be patient and take time, but you need strategies both in terms of conduct, meaning action and speech, in the heart, the mind, in terms of development of the wholesome qualities which directly oppose those defilements, and then using the yoniso manasikara and thinking and investigating and looking at the roots, the wrong understanding, the cravings, the kind of thinking which leads to this bad habit, and gradually eradicate them.
Is it okay, Bhante? Last question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they asking about the diet, is the food. How many time we have to take the food for? How many time we have to take the diet of food for better meditation and avoid laziness?
It really depends on your lifestyle. As you know, in monasteries, then take food between dawn and midday, but that's due to a number of reasons. One, just to reduce the burden on the lay supporters and their need to cook and prepare food. The most monasteries will eat twice a day. In forest monasteries, in the Tudanga monasteries, then we eat once a day. And there's pros and cons for that. Eating once a day is an ascetic practice which is aimed at looking at the cravings and the defilements that arise over food. And eating once a day, it becomes very easy to see the defilements and to treat the defilements. If you eat twice a day, it's a lot more relaxed, and the kind of fears of not getting enough and etc. Don't arise to the same degree. So for beginning with this answer for monastics, twice or once is enough. For lay Buddhists, I don't recommend lay Buddhists to keep 8 precepts generally, particularly the 6th precept of refraining from eating in the evening. One, if you've had a long day working, it's tough to do that anyway, but that's not the main reason. For me, people these days living such busy lives, and often the only time a family will come together as a group is over the evening meal. So seen when lay Buddhists taking 8 precepts, then they're not there with the family at the evening meal, and so it affects the harmony and the atmosphere and the communication within the family, who's not sort of joining in. So that's one consideration. It's not so much the number of times, I think, but it's the kind of foods you eat and the amount of food you eat. I would say generally that it's best to have your main meal during the middle of the day, whether that's 11 or 12 or whatever time, and that in the evening time to eat something much lighter. So a light meal in the evening, not necessarily to abstain altogether, but a heavy meal in the evening is often going to lead to sleepiness in meditation, because the body's having this extra work it has to do to digest the food, and the blood's going from the brain down to the stomach. And a large evening meal also increases usually the amount of time you need to sleep, and a very light evening meal you'll find will reduce your sleep needs. So you're making sure there's longer time for meditation as well. As far as the kind of food, then finding foods that you can digest well and foods that are healthy for your body. So you don't need to be like super obsessive about diet, but just you have a general idea of, what's good for your body and what's not. And you don't have to be super strict so it becomes like a really big issue in your life. Like, if you like sweet things, then maybe just, have a limit on the amount of sweet things, or you only eat sweet things once a week or something like that. And so you can have a sense of going against the grain and training yourself a little bit, but don't overdo it. And food can so easily become like a really big issue in people's lives unnecessarily. So just enough food to keep your body strong and healthy and able to perform all your duties, responsibilities, and to practice the Dhamma. Keep an eye on the effect of certain foods that don't agree with you, and abstain from those foods and eat lightly in the evening. That would be my advice.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. Please give us some blessings.
You want a Pali blessing? Or
Yes, Bhante.
okay, so I just give normal blessing.
Okay.
Yatha varivaha pura paripurenti sagrang evameva ito tinang petanang upakapati chitang batitang tumhang kippamiwa samiccato sapphe purentu sankapa Yando panaraso yatha mani jyotiraso yatha sapyityo vivachanto sabbharokho vinasato Matem Bhavatvantarayo Sukhi Thikayuko Bhava Abhivadana Silisa Nityang Vata Pachayino Chataro Thamma Vatanti Ayuvano Sukha Phalang. So may you all grow in the Dhamma, may you all be motivated and diligent and clever in preventing akusala dhammas from entering your mind and from abandoning those that are already there. May you be smart and consistent and intelligent and devoted to introducing into the mind the wholesome qualities that are not there yet, and into taking care of and maturing those good qualities that are there already. May you all prosper in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Wish you all physical, mental, spiritual happiness and progress.
Sadhu, 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 Bhante. Thank you. Yeah, we can stop Bhante now.